You can see the information that's on there about the class, when it meets, who I am, how to contact me, who the alternate contact person is if you can't get in touch with me. But this is the actual the Blackboard site. So all our Blackboard sites basically are supposed to be about the same for the whole program. I don't know if they are or not. The course content, course calendar. I haven't put the test dates on here yet, but basically we have 3 tests in the term. And I think the first test we give on the 5th class, and then every test after that we give on 4 classes. So we basically have tests every month. We usually go the 5 days on the first one just so y'all can get pretty used to it. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means we'll have a test on the 22nd. The first test will be on the 22nd. Then after that, it will be every 4 classes we'll have a test. Okay. And that'll be all filled in. I've got it written down on my paper at home. I just hadn't entered in. All I've done on the calendar so far is just enter the things that are the same for all the classes. So spring break is going to be between the 26th and the 30th. So you'll get that whole week off. This is where we post announcements, but what I do anytime I post an announcement, I'm also send it out through college email. We'll let you know that there's announcements there. Another thing that we have available to this class is where I can text you information relative to the class. I think I've read a survey one time where if you send it out by email, there's like a 30% of chance of people reading it. If you send it out by text, and there's over a 90% of chance of them reading it. So we use a texting application called Remind, which allows you to text me and me to text you, and I don't have to give you my cell phone number, and I can block you if I want. So it's a really neat application, but to be able to use it, you have to sign up for it. So if you want to receive text about this class, and you have to just follow this procedure right there on text messages, sign up. And then that way I can send you text messages relative to the class. Well, up until now, I've been keying in everybody's information, and I've realized that just takes me a lot of time, and I make mistakes sometimes. And the way the Remind is that if you make a mistake, you can't correct. Once it's been entered, you can't correct it. You have to delete it and redo the whole thing. So what I've decided to start doing is just if you want me to send you text messages relative to the class, and you sign up for it. If you don't, then don't sign up for it. But there's no excuses if you say, well, I didn't see that, or I can't get email. So I have that happen all the time. I'm having problems reading my email. And this is, at the end of the term. So you're responsible for this. So there's none of that where you come in and say, if you don't sign up for this, anything else, I'll even send you an email saying, text said, check your email, right? Or check your announcements. Or if something happens and the class is canceled for some reason, I can send that out by text messages, right? And y'all understand that. So it's pretty important, but it's up to you. If you don't want me to send you text messages, don't. Like in my PLC class, there's 16 people in that class, or 15, and I've had one people, I think it's, if you signed up for it, I think there's only one person in the class that signed up for it. That's not mine. Here's the first week quizzes, and this is where there's another copy of the brief up here if you lose it. I need to change that. This is where you do your first week quizzes and agreements. So you have a copy of the brief. Y'all look the brief over and see if y'all got any questions on there. By the way, my office hours, I picked up 3 classes. I have to be on campus 35 hours a week. I am in class 30 hours a week. In class. So what that means is I only have office hours scheduled on Fridays. So if you need to talk to me about something, you need to figure out campus. There's the brief. You need to schedule an appointment on Friday. If you need to see me another time, then we'll try to schedule something, but it's always going to be on Friday because I'm in class all the time. right? Y'all understand that? So everybody okay with the brief? Any questions on the brief? So this is the actual official course syllabus here. Oops, that's not the syllabus, Rich. I think I got them backwards. Hopefully I did. So I don't have a copy of the syllabus up there. So what I did is put the brief up there both times. Of course, Rich never makes mistakes. So this is the official course syllabus. Anything that's on the brief, we don't put that back in the syllabus. So the brief is actually part of the syllabus, right? You understand that? Now, what this lets us do is that we only have to change one document every semester, but that's not really true either, because they've made major, well, pretty significant revisions to this. Normally, the prerequisite for this class is motor controls, but I realize some of y'all hadn't had that. The course, we're still in the first year of doing the course, so the course is still under development. So we allow y'all to get into this class even though you hadn't had motor controls, but we'll be okay. Don't worry about that. Evaluation, this is the way you're going to be evaluated. So different portions of your program have different weights. So if you I try to turn that feature off, but there's a column every time we create a Blackboard slide. There's a column that pops up there that says totals, and the problem is that total gives everything the same way. And I've had people come up and say, "Well, Rich, it only shows I got this percentage in here. Is that going to be my grade?" I said, "No, it's not going to be your grade because everything has a different weight, right? You understand? So we don't give first week quizzes the same weight that we do test, right? You understand that? So that means what you just can't go. And I had a student one time. So if you look at the grade book, it gives there should be a column for each one of these that says average. And the problem is we have people. So there's 6 things that count for your average. Well, I've had people call me and say, "Well, Rich, when I add so what they'll do is they'll add all these averages up and they divide it by 6 and they think that's supposed to be their grade. So when you do that, what do? And you're giving everything the same way. You call up, he says, "Rich, I'm supposed to have a B in your class and you gave me a C." And I said, "Well, how did you calculate it?" He told me. I said, "You can't do that because your first week quizzes don't have the same weight as your tests, right? You understand that? So if you wanted to do that, you could take, if you wanted to calculate your grade, you could take all these. So you could look at first week quizzes. So if you have 100%, you would multiply that by 0.02, and then that's going to give you a number on the right? You understand? And then you'd do that for all these. You multiply it by the percentage, then you add those up, and that would give you your grade average. Or you can just look at my grade average for you. Tests, what we do on tests, we don't give makeup tests. We don't have time to give makeup tests. In fact, we don't give makeup tests in any of our classes. Because the way the tests run, test 1 and test 2, we give our tests, those tests we give at the end of class. So we'll be in lab the first part of the class, and we have a test at the end of the class. And then what we do is the next class, we go over the test. Well, if I've got somebody that hadn't taken the test, then what can I do the next class? I can't go over the test, right? You understand? And now all of a sudden we're totally out of sync with trying to get another test in in four classes. So what we do is we don't give makeup tests, but we understand that things happen and sometimes you miss a test, right? You understand that? So what do? We automatically at the end of the term we drop your lowest test score. So that gives you the option, if you can't be here on the test day, then it gives you an option of dropping that class. So, and it's automatic at the end of the semester. It's not going to be dropped during the test. It's going to be dropped after we take the third test, right? You understand that? It'll come up and be dropped. Because this is an 8-week term, guys. If you miss 2 tests, you're not going to pass the test. the class anyway, right? You understand that? So you need to plan for it, and that's why I'll put these test dates on the calendar so you know right up in front when we're going to have these tests. And in a mini term, we cannot move these tests around because we got so much material we got to cover between tests. So if we move a test, that means we're going to have to cover more material, right, before we get there. And so we just don't move tests. First week quizzes and agreements. Y'all have had most of our classes. Y'all understand that. So we have several things up there that you have to do. So to make you read the syllabus, we require you to take a syllabus quiz, right? To make sure you read the fire and evacuation procedure, we make you take a quiz on it, right? To make you say that you read it, you agree to the contents of the syllabus. So that's one thing that's very, very, very important. So legally, and what we do it like they do on applications when you install them, is that instead of us so some of your classes they have you sign a paper saying you got the syllabus. But what we do is we make you submit an agreement that says you've read the syllabus and I've gone over the syllabus with you. Even if you're not here, what am I doing right now? I'm recording it, right? So you're still responsible for listening to this recording. And if you're not here, then what you can do is you can submit questions. If you have questions on the syllabus, then you can submit questions to me by email. But you're still responsible for reading the syllabus. And now I've got a thing. So we had a class where the instructor was new, and undoubtedly he didn't read the syllabus. And he sent me a email way to the end of the quarter and saying, "Where's the labs at? Who's going to run the labs off for me?" And the students were required to buy what? A lab book. So they came in there and they were saying, we didn't know. And they said, well, here's the syllabus agreement that says you're required to buy the book. And you said, I agree with the contents of the syllabus. And now you're telling me you didn't know, right? You understand? So that guy's no longer teaching for us, by the way. He taught one class. Unfortunately. So you're required to read the course syllabus. You're required to do the safety and evacuation. I'll read the safety and evacuation. You're required to read the dress code. And then some of them just says I'm going to adhere to the dress code. Some of them, of course, the syllabus we do in the safety and evacuation, we make you take a quiz on that. Okay? Those are all due by this Friday at midnight, except for the syllabus agreement. The syllabus agreement is due next class, before next class. Everybody understand that? Assignments will be posted on Blackboard. So I don't know. I will go and look and see how many assignments on this. Labs, all the labs we do in here, by the way, are team labs. So what we're trying to do is trying to get you. There's very few places these days where you go to work that you don't have to work with a team. So this name of this class is what? That's not. Yeah, diagnosis and troubleshooting. So what is diagnosis? Well, diagnosis is if you got a problem, you figure out what the problem is, right? That's what diagnosis is. Just like a doctor, when a doctor says, well, this is my diagnosis, that's exactly the same thing. And then what's troubleshooting? Should actually be troubleshooting and repair. What is troubleshooting? Yeah, the steps you take to make your diagnosis, right? And then, of course, repair is doing what? Fixing. So we call it troubleshooting, but it's actually troubleshooting and repair. So what we do in this class is, first of all, before a doctor can make a diagnosis, this doctor has to go through all this training and all that other kind of stuff. They have to know how we work, right? You understand? If the doctor don't know how we work, then the doctor's not going to be able to make the correct diagnosis, right? You understand that? So the first thing that we have to do in an automated system is understand how the system works. So that's one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to go over there and figure out how it works. And of course, to figure out how it works and have other people try to do this, you have to documentation. right? You understand? So you figure out how something works and you document how you work, and then you go off and then you come back a year later and you start having problems and trying to figure out how it works again. What can you do? You can look at your documentation, and this documentation tells you exactly how to expect. So we're going to learn sequences and sequences and sequences. One of the problems that we have is that we have a troubleshooting guide, and people want to start with step one. Well, the problem might be in step 6, right? You understand? So you're spending all this time troubleshooting stuff that's not broke. So learning how to get into your troubleshooting sequence guide, where to start at, right? You understand? So we're going to look at what we call function charts, step charts, and different methods that we can use. So instead of us trying to start on step 1, we can do what? Start where the problem actually exists. So these automated systems, these manufacturers, we're talking about thousands of dollars a minute. And when these things go down, thousands of dollars a minute for every time that thing's not doing what it's supposed to do, right? You understand? So it's up to the technician now to get in there, figure out what's wrong with it fast, doing what, and get it back up and running. So that's what we're going to try to teach you here. So we're going to have labs, troubleshooting labs, function chart labs, safety labs. One of the first labs is going to be a lockout tagout lab. Make sure y'all understand how to do that. So the first lectures that we have, of course, are going to be basic safety lectures, right? Y'all understand that. Even though our equipment is fairly small, and it would be hard to get hurt on our equipment, you get out there in the Navy, they used to call it the real world. When you get out in the fleet, that's what the Navy used to say. So we can teach you all this stuff, but until you get out in the fleet, that's where you're going to really learn some stuff. So our stuff is small, it's safe, it's hard to get, not a lot of pressure. It's not going to let us get hurt, but if you learn how to be safe on this equipment, then of course you can move that over to some bigger equipment. Then Charles Kigler started talking. He worked out at U.S. Steel, and I was telling him when I worked out there, when I first went out there was over 10,000 people working at those plants out there. Between Inslee and Fairfield, there was 10,000 people. And our group covered both plants. Our electronic group covered both plants. And there's people getting killed out there all the time. I mean, all the time. And basically it was just about always their fault, right? There was a couple of them that wasn't their fault, but just about every time. We had one guy was walking across over what we used to call it the bug pond, but it was a place where they put bacteria in there, and they'd put their leftover water and stuff that they would use for killing, and that bacteria would get just about all of it out. And he was walking across a crossway, and it collapsed on him. And he fell into the thing and drowned. Well, that was one situation where it wasn't his fault. Then we had another guy that got killed. He was up on a tower, and they had a metal floor that he was cutting a hole in, and he cut a big old hole in that metal floor, put his torch up, and turned around and fell through the hole. He just got through he got through cutting. We laugh about it, but I'm sure his family didn't think about it. So we try to do safety. It is. We had one guy. He didn't work for U.S. Steel, but he worked for Uniroyal, and they changed the tires out on the big old the scrap haulers that used to run up, and them suckers was. I mean, it's strange. Our electronic shop was up in the top floor of the Cubot building, and we'd walk out right on there, and you'd walk out, and you'd be at the bottom of the rim of these tires. I mean, these suckers are like 12 feet at least. They're big tires, water filled, huge. They had one that had a leak in it, and he came out there and from Uniroyal, and they had this crane that come over and clamp onto it and pull it off after they jacked it up. And he set the tire over and set it up tallways, set it on the floor, and they don't tell him how many times he did that. And then he got over there, and what did the tire do? Fell on him, yeah. And they called out there and said, "Have you seen so-and-so?" He says, "He's supposed to be back by now." And he went out, and his truck and everything was there. And they started looking for him, and he was under that big old tire. He didn't work for you. But that was one of them. We started talking about that, about all the people that got killed when I was working up there. But anyway, but labs, what we do labs is anytime you finish a lab, what we do is we'll sign it off, and then you have, you don't, some of the labs will have questions involved with it. What you'll have to do is, what we try to do here is we try to do labs. So we do labs, and then our hands-on labs. And then all the questions on the lab, we don't want you to do it here. We want you to do that at home, right? So what we do is we give y'all the next day. So the lab will be you do the next class that we come back. Does that make sense? And then if you don't turn it in, then we start reducing points. And I had a problem with my PLC class this last time, where I had students did what I swore I'd never happen again. They turned in all their labs the last day of class. Now, what should they have got on all those labs? They got zeros, right? You have to make at least a C to pass the course. Everybody okay there? This talks about recorded lectures, but it's also a technology. We have problems with that. Every once in a while, it'll say that it's corrupted and it won't upload. Every once in a while, I think I'm recording, but I'm not recording. So it just says, you know, and what's nice about recorded lecture is that you're responsible for class even if you're absent, right? You understand that? So what that means is that if you miss a class, you know, you can't make up the labs. And there's no way in the world you're going to make up labs. But what we do is we scale it. We usually drop one lab just to compensate for people that are absent, because you're working with a team, right? You understand? So you can't make up labs when you're working with a team, right? Y'all understand that? Because what you would have to do is your whole team, and we rotate teams, and so that's one thing that we learn, is that a lot of times when you're out there working in industry, you don't work with the same people. So what we do is we do a lab, you'll be in one team. Then we change positions, we rotate teams, so during the semester you're going to be working with different people. Different people are going to be in charge. So what we try to do is we try to do either 2 or 3 people. We never do more than that. And then one person is going to be designated the leader, and the other person is going to be designated the technician, right? You understand? And then what we all do, and then we'll swap around, we'll move, we'll change teams, and we'll change authority. You're going to have to make presentations. So anytime we do something, that's why we have all these whiteboards. We have several in here too that will roll out, where you can document stuff as you go along. And then what we do is once we do like a troubleshooting lab or this lab, then your team is going to present what you did to the other teams, right? You understand that? And that's the way this works. So absences is going to be real hard to do. If you're here, if you're not here, if something happens and you're not here, you're responsible for trying to see the lecture online. The problem we have with recorded lectures, another problem we have, is that it takes longer to upload the lectures than it does to record them. And the problem is I can't leave my computer on. I'm in different buildings. My computer has to be on. Once I start it, my computer has to be on the whole time. And also going to YouTube, if I have to cancel a recording, then it has to start from the beginning, which I don't like. We used to have a website and an application called Tegrity. Tegrity was real neat because I could unplug my computer, and next time I plugged it in, it would start and it would automatically upload from where I was at. So it would upload another presentation while I was recording a new one, which is real neat. But that cost the college around $18,000 a year, licensing for that software. And there was very few instructors, you've probably seen that actually records their lectures. So what they did is they got rid of that, and now we're using something called Screencast-O-Matic. I don't know what the license fee on that is. It's actually a free application that you can get, but if you don't pay for licensing on it, it limits your recording time to 15 minutes. And then also we've got a commercial channel on YouTube too, so we can actually upload a lot of lectures up there. So the version of Screencast-O-Matic that I'm using has no limit on the amount of time of my recordings. But we have big problems in that I can't upload them during the week. So what I do on Fridays, I'll come up and hook my computer up to not a wireless, I hooked it up to a wired network because it's a lot faster, and then I'll upload them there. So what that means is if you miss a Tuesday class, there's not going to be a lecture up there for the Thursday class. It won't be up there till the weekend, right? But you can follow me on YouTube. My name is Rich Raymond. Sometimes I'll upload the lectures before I can actually link them into Blackboard. And also you can look at all the lectures I've recorded. I need to go up there and delete some of them. Some of the classes I've taught multiple times, but they're all up there. So, which is pretty neat. When I had my motorcycle accident, I was out for a year and a half. I taught my classes while I wasn't here. Well, Nancy was assigned to them, but what would she do? She'd come up there and put the students in the class and show them my recorded lectures. And then she'd come in there and answer questions. And then, of course, she was responsible for labs. But I don't know how she did it, honest to goodness. Everybody understand what plagiarism is? What's plagiarism? Yeah, claiming otherwise work's yours. That's what plagiarism is. Cheating, most people understand cheating. Another thing, so this is new to the syllabus. This has just been added this year. And it says if you cheat, you're going to get 0 grade, right? This is a new thing that's been added called professional decorum. You don't text in class, you don't sleep in class, you don't seek out a turn in class, you don't make unnecessary traffic in class. You don't do what? Eat or drink in class. I'm real strict on eating because I understand crumbs and stuff, that gets into things. Drinking something in class don't bother me, just as long as we don't get over there toward our equipment, right? Like this week, I came into my class and there's a guy over there on my computers next door, had a big sack of McDonald's chomping down, had a big Coca-Cola up there. If you've ever had to clean out a Coke that's felt into a keyboard, you would be wearing appropriate clothing. In this class, we don't allow shorts, we don't allow sandals or open-toe shoes. In this class, you need to wear. We don't allow synthetic clothing in here either. So that's something you need to get used to. There's almost any company out there that allows you to wear synthetic clothing. And why? Melts, yeah. If you get into the heat, it'll melt. And what happens when it melts? What does it stick to? It sticks to you, right? You understand? So in this class, even though we're going to run into some hotter weather, if you come in here trucking here with shorts and pants, and you're going to leave. You're not going to stay in the lab, right? You understand that? I think it's a shame where one man has to tell another man to pull up their britches. You don't understand that? So we don't let droopy clothes come in here. I don't know. I think they call it swag. Get some swag on or something like that. Sag. Another thing they've added, which has been around for years, is the procedure you should follow if you have concerns or complaints about the class. The first thing you're supposed to do is what? Speak to the instructor. The second thing you're supposed to do is go to the what? Department chair. After that, you don't go to the deans. You don't go to the president. We have students trying to get into the president's office to talk about an instructor. Now you might eventually get to the president, but after that, what you do is you do what? Yeah, you go to the student portal, right, on the college. So current students, you click on that, or you can use quick links, and then you just locate concerns and complaints, and then you'll fill that information out. I think Dr. Davis is the main person that reads those first. They'll try to see if they can take care of the complaint, if it's a valid complaint, right? You understand that? So if they've got you complaining about a class and there's 16 people in there and 15 people are satisfied with the class, then they understand it's what? It's you. Yeah, it's not the class, it's you. You just usually don't want to do the work, or you just don't. So you're complaining about the amount of work in the class. Harassment, we have no harassment. We're not going to go over these. American Disabilities, which says if you have a documented disability, that where we can make things available to you so you can successfully complete the course, then it needs to be documented. So you just can't come up to me and ask for consideration on certain things if you don't have documented that. And then there's some things that, you know, that we can't do, you know, because of the job and the requirements of the job. Cell phone and pagers, you're going to make sure you do what? Silence. Acceptable use means these computers and stuff don't belong to you. I'll go over there on our computers and we'll have games installed on the machines. And it's not their computers. I had one student that was left-handed, and when he sat down to a computer, he would switch the mouse over to what? Left-handed, and then when he got up, he'd what? Leave it, yeah. And you'd come over here and everything was backwards, yeah. So the buttons were backwards. Statement of harassment, we don't harass children on campus, no children on campus. Another problem that we have, another thing that really surprises me is people will just stop coming to class. And then you'll see them, they'll come back 6 months later, and they say, well, I dropped that class. So what do? I didn't unlock this. I'm sorry. They'll do what? They get an F in the class. And they say, well, I dropped that class. And what did they do? They just stopped coming. Right? You understand? So what the college has is they have a official withdrawal where you can do it online. You can find it in the student portal, or you can find it in Quick Links. Sorry. You can find it in Quick Links where you officially withdraw from the class. And if you officially withdraw from the class, what you do is you get a W in the class. Right? You understand that? A W means you withdraw, but it don't count against your grade point average. Everybody understand that? But you have to withdraw before the last day to withdraw. So you can't come to the day of the final exam and withdraw from the class. So I think it's the last week in April, I think. It's posted on the calendar is the last day to withdraw. If you withdraw before that day, you still have to repeat the class. You don't get any money back from the class, but it don't count against your grade point average. If you withdraw after that date, you get a grade. Everybody understand that? And there's another impression that students don't understand. They think if they make an F in the class, and then they come back the next time and make an A, they think the F does what? Disappears. That's not true. Your grade point average is cumulative. So what that means is if you make an A the second time, you add those two suckers together, it's a C. You don't understand that? So what that means is if you don't get your grade point average, you might have, you know, if you make all C's, then you might not get your award, right? You understand that? So you need to understand that. So if you're going to withdraw from the class, if you need to drop out, then do official withdrawal from the course. You do it before the what? What I recommend to my students is wait till then. Because this has happened to me before. We have a guy come in, he took a test, failed the test. What did he do? First test, what did he do? Withdrew. Then he came back the next time, did pretty good on the first test, took the second test and did what? Failed that one. Then he withdrew again. And I said, no, what you need to do is stay in till that last day to withdraw, and then everything is a what? Is a repeat. You always heard it before, so you don't have any really new material. But he finally did that and hung with it and passed the class. So that's the syllabus. Like I said, we just touched on the high points of the syllabus. Do y'all have any questions on the syllabus? Any questions? Here's, you get the brief. What's your name? It's on the road.